Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into how one university is fundamentally rethinking its support systems, really looking to build a more inclusive place for every single one of its students.
You know, for so many of us, university is this incredible promise. It's supposed to be this time of growth and challenge, a time where you discover who you are and what you're meant to do. It's meant to be a path forward.
But imagine if that path, that map to success, was full of hidden roadblocks. For some students, navigating the whole system is a huge challenge in itself, especially for those with specific learning differences.
Well, this is the exact challenge that the University of Siena in Italy decided to take on head-on. They saw that students with what they call DSA, or specific learning disabilities, were facing this really unique set of hurdles in higher education.
And look, we're not talking about some abstract idea here. These are the core, everyday activities of being a student, right? Trying to stay focused through a long lecture, cramming huge amounts of info for a final, and just handling the crushing stress and anxiety that comes with it. The source document calls this a major cognitive load.
So instead of just trying to put a bandage on the old system, the University of Siena decided it was time for a completely new playbook, one designed from the ground up with inclusion at its heart. And the core idea of this new playbook, it's a really simple but powerful shift. It's about moving away from all the red tape and an impersonal bureaucracy, and moving toward direct, empowering dialogue.
So the new process is actually incredibly simple. A student just uploads their official certification, and then they reach out directly to their professor to ask for support. That's it. That one simple move is totally transformative because it immediately opens up a conversation, cutting out all the middlemen and putting the student right in the driver's seat.
This quote from the university's own guidelines, man, it just says it all. The point isn't just to hand out accommodations. It's to make students the protagonists, the main characters of their own education. The whole system is built around giving them agency.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this actually play out in a student's daily life? Well, the university zeroed in on the two places it matters most: the classroom and, of course, the exam room.
And the approach they took is really comprehensive. In class, it means things like more interactive teaching, giving access to lecture recordings, and sharing materials ahead of time. And then for exams, the big word is flexibility. Students can ask for a different format, like an oral exam instead of a written one, or they can break a big test into smaller chunks. The focus is on what you know, not tiny mistakes in how you write it.
Some of the support is also very concrete, like a standard 30% extra time for written exams. The guidelines are super clear here. This isn't a gift. It's an evidence-based tool that's meant to offset that higher cognitive load we talked about, to actually level the playing field.
This brings up a really fascinating point. What about the personal tools that students make for themselves to study? Things like concept maps or detailed outlines. In a more traditional system, bringing those into an exam might be seen as cheating. But Siena's model, it sees them in a totally different light.
The whole system is built on collaboration. A student can create their own study aids, and then they share them with the professor. But not for a simple yes or no. It's for feedback. The professor's role is to help the student refine the tool, to make it even more effective for them. It's a process that's just built entirely on trust and dialogue.
And all of this really points to something way bigger than just a set of rules. What the university is trying to do here is build an entire culture of support, one that goes way beyond a formal diagnosis on a piece of paper.
Which of course leads to the critical question. What about the students who are obviously struggling, but for whatever reason? Maybe it's fear of stigma, maybe they just don't know. They don't have that official certification. This is what the university calls the shadow zone.
And the answer they came up with is just profoundly human. The guidelines explicitly tell professors to fall back on their most powerful tools, their ability to just observe what's going on in their classroom, and their willingness to start a conversation.
So this strategy for reaching that shadow zone is all about proactive empathy. It's about actively listening, it's about starting a dialogue without judgment, helping to connect students with the university's official support network if they want it, and, crucially, having the flexibility to offer help based on what you see, not just on what a piece of paper says.
And here's the beautiful insight that comes out of all of Siena's work. When you design for accessibility, it ends up benefiting everybody. When you make learning clearer and more flexible for some students, you actually make it better for all students. I mean, who doesn't benefit from clearer slides or recorded lectures?
This whole idea translates into really practical, simple advice. The university gives its staff these easy checklists. Use clean, simple fonts. Use high contrast colors. Avoid those huge walls of text.
These aren't just niche features, they're just principles of good communication that help every single person learn better.
Ultimately, this quote from the guidelines just says it all, doesn't it? The goal is to create a welcoming environment that respects people's individual timing and their needs. An exam shouldn't just be a test of how well you can manage your anxiety, it should be a real measure of what you've actually learned. And that focus on the human environment is what makes this whole system so powerful.
And that really leaves us with a final, big thought. The University of Siena has created this amazing model that's built on dialogue, trust, and flexibility. So the real question for all of us is, what if our own institutions, our workplaces, our schools, our communities, what if they all made that same shift? What could we all achieve if we always started with a conversation instead of starting with a label?